Welcome to the No Boring Stories podcast. I, of course, am Alex Street, and today I am joined by, no doubt, one of the most authentic and kind of just pure and kind people that I have had the privilege of becoming an acquaintance and a friend with through a mastermind that I'm a part of. And Meghan is here, and she is going to share her story with us. She's going to share her expertise. I think, Meghan, you have this amazing ability to pour as much out as it feels like you receive. Like you're an incredible listener, and then you just get to pour it back out on people. And I'm just so grateful for that. So I'm excited for you to be here, and would love to hear how you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm flooded with shivers. I'm so grateful to be here with you.
Wow. Good stuff. Does that mean something? I mean, in your realm of the whole body holistic health, what does that mean? I mean, you can feel shivers, you feel chills, whatever, but is there something actually deeper going on there? What's happening?
Well, my interpretation is that soul's truth. So if it resonates deeply within myself, it just is my indication that it's the truth of what you're speaking.
Wow. Okay. See, this is good stuff. I love it because this is the thing. I think that so often we go through life just living our story or just experiencing our story. And until we become aware, first of all, that we are living a story worth telling, that's kind of one level of this. And I love what you bring to this is an awareness of actually what you're living through, like the environment that you're walking through, and the environment being stuff around you, but actually the physical body that you're walking through this story with. I feel like you bring an amazing awareness to the feelings that we just take for granted. The experiences that we're just like, oh yeah, that was just yesterday. That's just Tuesday. I feel like crap on Monday. And you're like, no, that's not it. Let me tell you why you felt like crap on Monday. Am I right? Like that's
100%.
what we're going with here.
Yeah. Our body is it's our divine wisdom. Our body knows the answer. And it's really learning to tap into that and acknowledging what's coming up for us and having compassion as opposed to judgment, or not even understanding as what's going on within our physical body, because we're so disconnected and we can live in our headspace.
Okay. So with that, if my body knows what's going on, let's just think about some of the stories. And if you're listening to this, then think of some of the stories that you watch that, every time make you cry, or every time make you feel something. You're like, yes, when Jack holds, what's her name? Kate Winslet. What's her name in the movie? I don't know. In Titanic, when he holds her out on the front of the boat, you're like, I feel something. Celine Dion is singing. Like, I feel something, or maybe not. But for me, one of those stories, and you told me this earlier, is one of your favorite stories as well, is the great children's book, Love You Forever, by Robert Munsch, good Canadian boy. And this book, there was a while that I couldn't get through it. I couldn't read it to my own kids without crying, without stopping, and having them kind of turn and look at me and like, Dad? It's like, yeah, just give me a minute here. And like there's a reaction. So what I'm saying is, my body's telling me the truth, is what you just said. And I guess the truth was that there was something, as it was. I mean, it's no surprise to me. It's about a mom and her kid having a kid, and the dad, this boy watching his mom grow up and get sick, and then holding, goodness, I'm gonna cry thinking about it now, because it was especially after my mom passed away that I was reading that. And of course, this grief was pouring out of me as I was reading that. Tell me about what that book is for you. And then even to expand on that, why we have those kind of reactions to certain stories. What is it that's coming out of our body? What is our body trying to show us when we react in a certain way towards those stories? But why does that one stand out to you?
Well, there's a lot that I don't remember from my childhood, but that book is a significant piece of something that I was able to hold on to. And it was like that security blanket, that safety blanket of feeling that love and feeling that connection and just that ability that I'll love you forever, because I was so disconnected that I didn't necessarily love myself.
Yeah.
And so that is a book that just comes to mind when I think of something that has really been impactful in my life at a very young age. And, you know, our body holds on to these memories, right? So even though our minds might disconnect, we may not remember, we may not have vivid memories of our past, our body still holds on to the experiences, the events that have happened. And so when you read something like that book to your children, which I don't have children, I can only imagine what it would be like to read to your children, your body has a somatic response. So it's just that reaction to your memories that you stored within your physical body. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's so just, I want to dive into that a little bit and then really open up your story here and hear this. Just clarify, the word somatic means what?
It's your body's reaction to the experience.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So as we, so you said, you know, of course, that's opening up memories for me. So every time that I read that book, yes, it's not only, I'm not reading a book, I'm thinking about my mom reading me this book. And obviously, and she gave it to me on the birthday of my oldest daughter, whose birthday was yesterday. And so 15 years ago, she gave me this book and said, may you have many happy hours reading together. And now here I am, exactly and I'm living out this, it's like I've lived out the story of the character in the book. And again, that shows up in all kinds of ways. And so I think what's so fascinating is for those listening and thinking of the stories that really do make us feel something and emote, like show that emotion. It's not something to be ignored and certainly not something to be ashamed of. It's trying to show us something. And it's something that we should celebrate, deal with, focus on, journal about. I don't know what.
Definitely acknowledge, for sure. I mean, the first step to initiate change is awareness, right? So having the awareness of like, oh, isn't that interesting? Like, I'm reading this book, tears are flowing down my eyes. Like what, like if you were to dive deeper, like what is that, right? Just having this loving awareness as to what's occurring within your physical body, right? Because again, so many of us are disconnected due to life experiences and events that have occurred. So when you kind of step back and have that awareness, like, oh, isn't that interesting? What is that? What is this here to show me? What is this here to teach me?
So this is what you do. This is what you do with people. You provide this space in many different forums to do this work. Am I right? Like what is this main work that you're doing now? And ultimately the impact that you see or hope to see with people that you're working with and guiding them through this process with?
Well, I hold space for others. My journey has led me to the space of coaching, of healing, of being a Kundalini yoga teacher and retreat leader. My past was a nurse in my past life.
We'll get there. Just tell me where you are now.
Yeah.
You've got all these things now, and then I want to hear how you got here. But just what do you do?
What I do is I hold space for individuals to really come home to their truth. Because again, through life, through traumatic events, we've become disconnected. So I hold space for people to really heal what it is that they've been suppressing, whether it's experiences, emotions, limiting beliefs, really taking people on a journey to release and heal on that subconscious level.
This is so good. You've done so much clarity work on this. I can tell because right. I'm trying to ask you the question of like, all right, so what do you do now? And you so easily go, you're like, I help people heal because we're disconnected. Like you're opening up that story loop for us. And you're saying like, yeah, but because of where you began, I'm going to help you heal. And I guess there's some like, if you're healing, well, then there must be a wound. There must be some, I'm going to fix. Well, then there must be something that was broken. So there's something, it's interesting because a lot of us kind of just go forward and we're like, hey, I'm going to help. Like for me, if I'm like, I'm going to help you find clarity, there's this inherent understanding that you're lacking clarity. There's confusion. I don't, if that word is good enough, is strong enough, then I actually don't need to label the first one. I get to label. And I think that's part of this work is we get to go back and define exactly what you're healing people from. Right. Because if you just said, I get to heal people, fabulous. Are you a surgeon? Like we just don't know. But for you to say, to go back and now get to this point of like, again, I would say, where does that begin for you? I already know you're going to go back to a point of disconnection and describe for us then. So this is now your opportunity. Describe for us, what was that life like as a kid, as a teen growing up? What is disconnection? Disconnected from others, self, sensibility? What does that mean, and how did that play out for you?
Well, at a very young age, I was very connected. I'm very spiritually connected, highly intuitive, empathic. And
what does that look like as a kid? Like, are you talking like 6-year-old?
No, younger than 5.
Okay. So what does that look like?
I just was able to sense things. I was able to feel things. I had vivid dreams and things would come true. Yeah. It was just like this high sensitivity to life's experiences, events that occurred, this inner knowingness, but I wasn't able to articulate. And as a result, I felt very alone and misunderstood. And something happened at the age of 5 where I learned to disconnect because it didn't feel safe to be in my physical body. And it was from sexual trauma at a very young age.
Right.
So I became disconnected. And through that, I no longer felt in my physical body. I didn't feel in my body. I did everything in my power to not be in my body. Right. Which led me to an 18-year relationship with an eating disorder. So that's that. It's a disconnection. So yeah, to be separated from your body, you're like, I'm going through life, feeling, thinking on an emotional level, maybe a spiritual level, but you're like, well, my body is showing, like, what, again, how does that show up? If you can give like a moment, an experience, I don't know what that looks like to disconnect from the body in such a significant way. So it's a big feeling comes up and you don't understand what that is. So you do everything in your power to not feel that. That's disconnect. So perhaps you feel scared, you feel angry, you feel sad, you feel happy, any feeling. It's like, this doesn't feel safe for me to feel this. So I'm going to disconnect. And oftentimes people will disconnect, whether it's through drugs or alcohol or food or social media or sex. So there's like this disconnect from your emotional body, from your physical body. It's just like, you're here and you're living life, but you are not 100% connected. You're not present in your physical body. Does that make
fascinating sense? Yeah. And it's you said the words of all those different emotions, that none of them feel safe to feel those. That stands out to me, because then it's not like, you're imagining the person who just doesn't like to feel despair or doubt or fear or sadness or grief, but it's also the heightened experiences of celebration, of joy, of happiness, and what's any sort of extreme, maybe not extreme. That's what it all of a sudden made me just imagine. I mean, it just, color went away. It just went to like a monotone, really kind of black and white life.
Very dark.
Huh.
Yeah, very dark.
Not, it's interesting because it's not even, I mean, it's your experience, but what I imagine wasn't even dark. There's lights and there's shades of that. It's just, it was colorless
Hmm.
for me. But I mean, in your experience going through that, it showed up as just like the depth,
Hmm.
the darkness
Very dark. Yeah, it was a very dark time in my life. Um,
for 18 years.
for 18 years. Yeah. And I really didn't want to live here on this, in this thing called life.
Mhm.
Yeah, lots of disconnect, lots of just dreaming about not living any longer.
Yeah. What do
Hmm.
you think? What were you thinking? What did you think when you're going through life, on this plane, on kind of this, black and white experience, and you see other people that seem to not be doing that. They seem to feel safe in those emotions. How did you reconcile that?
That's where I learned to don many masks.
Huh.
No one knew anything was wrong because I was like, my nickname growing up was Bubbles. I always had a beautiful smile. I was happy, outgoing, loving. Yeah, no one knew that anything was going on because I had this great front. I wore these masks. I'm like, oh, that person looks like this. Maybe I should be like this. Oh, this person looks like this. Maybe I should look like this. And so because I was so disconnected from my soul self,
Mm.
I was doing everything in my power to feel connected in some form.
That's fascinating. Like, I mean, the word personality means, right? Like, it's a persona. It's something that you're it's literally, it's a mask. It's a part that you're playing. And what you did, you put on all these different, whatever personality you needed to play.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, I don't know if you, again, if someone's listening to this, they just heard us go into the depth and the darkness of everything. And like, I didn't want to be here. And oh, by the way, my nickname was Bubbles. Like, it's
Oh,
this fabulous kind of back and forth play on that um juxtaposition
mm-hmm.
of who you are and how you're going through that. So then where does that shift for you?
Yeah. Um, intuitively, thankfully, that I knew that I was destined for more, that there was a glimmer of hope within me. And so I had just finished my nursing and I came to the conscious awareness because I was very unconscious. Um, just not being consciously aware. I wasn't unconscious, but like not
Right,
consciously
right,
aware.
right, right.
Um, that I couldn't help anybody until I helped myself. And so that kind of opened up the portal to it's time to receive, it's time to be open and honest about what's really going on for me. And I still
Mm.
didn't know. I didn't have any recollection as to what happened when I was a little girl. And again, when I was
Yeah.
19. But I did know that I'm here for a reason and I need to know what happened, getting to the root cause so
Yeah.
I can move beyond that because I know that this life has so much to offer. So that's kind of opened up the portal to really embrace and embody this healing journey.
This is what's so fascinating to me, because you go through this experience, and it's almost like, I just hear this a lot from people, where it's almost this experience where you're like, and then I realized. And as fascinating and beautiful as it is, and especially again, the story you're telling us, the depth of this, and then you're like, and then I got into nursing. First of all, there's a what, why, like, what made you go there? And you're like, well, I realized during that I can't help these people unless I first help myself. And then I realized moment, while beautiful, while amazing and inspiring to hear, it actually leaves a big question mark for the listener.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, me, where I go, what the frick made you realize something? What conversation happened? What book showed up? What podcast? What path were you walking on? Do you know what I mean? What song
Mm-hmm.
did you listen to? Whether you can actually pinpoint down to a moment or not, but there's something along that way. I feel like typically there is some sort of outside influence that starts to shift things, starts to push this immovable object. um, to realize?
Well, I can't recall a song or a podcast or anything, but again, there was just inner knowingness. And I do believe it was out of alignment with my values for me to be able to help people to that level of being a nurse. If I was unhealthy and not taking care of myself, it was literally the definition of insanity. There would be periods of me trying to refrain from the eating disorder, but then other methods would come in to play to try and numb out, because I didn't want to feel. It didn't feel safe for me to feel anything. So I would find various ways to numb out.
So in this, like, were you in a hospital? Were you working?
In the process of healing my eating disorder, yes.
I mean, like, when you were working, like, in your nursing degree, as you were like, okay, yeah, you were in the process of healing and helping patients.
Correct. Yeah.
What did you love about that?
About nursing?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love to help people.
Is there someone that comes to mind that you think of that, like, oh, this person, like Mr. Johansson, like
patient? Oh yeah. There's many patients, that have my heart. And I just absolutely loved it. It was a beautiful piece of my story, a beautiful piece of my journey.
Can you think to if you can think of one specific, I don't know, and you can think of, like, okay, they came in this way and they left the hospital in this way, like, what kind of a, transformation did you see?
Well, being a nurse for 18 years, I've worked in all fields. So I would have to say working at a treatment center was mind-blowing. To see someone come in a state of absolute chaos and just disconnected again, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and to see the transformation over a period of 30, 60, 90 days, and to see them walk out of treatment with this new lease on life and to have healed on such a deep, profound level.
Yeah.
That is, like, there's nothing better than that, in my opinion.
Well, I love it, right? Because sometimes we look at, like, okay, this is my story, this is my journey, and those people that I interact with along the way are somewhat a reflection of the transformation that I'm experiencing as well, especially when we put ourselves into those situations. And so as I hear your story, that's what's really standing out to me, is this idea of you feeling a certain way, you feeling disconnected, and you putting on this face, but then deciding, I'm going to go and help others. I'm going to go into nursing. And maybe to put words into your mouth here, but there's this sense of, like, if, like, I can't help myself, but I can at least help others. And then in that you realize, oh, I can't help others until I help myself.
Yes. And my parents were adamant that I went to university. So I started school at 17, started my degree in business, wasn't my jam, went into nursing. So, but yes.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. That's part of so many people's stories, is like, I don't know, I had to go for something. And then it always fascinates me, though, of, like, okay, but still you chose nursing instead of fine art, instead of, any other business. What was the reasoning behind that? And there's something in your core, I think, that comes back to you even before, 5 years old, as you say. There is this intuitive presence that you have, this hope and healing that you have, that you then was showing up, even though, again, your body tells a story. Wherever you led, it was leading the way through that. Am I right in that? I mean, I have a tendency to speak into stories, whether they're true or not. And so I'm just trying to highlight that, if that's
100%. True. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think I know that's what led me into my career in coaching, as well as like retreats and teaching Kundalini. Like, it's just like, I once was there. And for me personally, like, I feel like I have no right holding space for people to the capacity that I do if I'm not doing my own work. You know, for me to embody my own work first is my number one priority. And then I can hold space for others. Hence why I felt so out of alignment when I was working as a nurse. I was like,
Yeah.
this isn't right. Like, I need to heal first.
Mm. And so over the years, we've talked about this, you have a number of certifications, degrees, and everything that you could hang your hat on. Is each of those, all these experiences that you've gone through to do that self-discovery work and prepare yourself on an even greater level to help others, is it simply out of curiosity from you? Like what draws you to, you know, learn a new skill, to find a new way? Is it always about, ooh, this thing will further help? With this thing, I am more able to help people, more capable. What
Yeah.
is it?
Well, when I started my healing journey, I worked with therapists, I worked with counselors, and then I started working with a coach. And that's when things really started to pivot for me. I was like, holy man, like, there's something to coaching. So that inspired me to start my world in coaching. So that was my first certification. And then I was
How long ago was
introduced
that now? Like from here?
6 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah. And then Kundalini yoga was brought back into my life, and I had a profound experience, and I was like, this is my jam. Like, this is my jam. So that inspired me to get my teacher training. And then I was in Fast Foundations.
Yeah.
First round, and Rachel Joy was my coach, and she did these incredible methods through neurolinguistic programming. And to backtrack a little bit, I did some hypnotherapy when my dad was passing over a year, and that was like a huge piece of my healing. It was just such a it was such a beautiful experience. And so being introduced to Rachel, getting the certifications in hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, emotional freedom technique, I was like, yes, because I've experienced it myself and I know how potent and powerful it is. So everything that I offer is something that I first embodied within myself.
Which, right, to some very specific and practical degree, that's authority. You're like, look, yeah, I'm an authority. I'm an authority to teach you how to speak because I've been on stage. And because I went through this experience, I can tell you what worked and didn't work. Like, that's such a very clear, authoritative process. And so for you, right, I go through this certification and I can now teach you this thing. Again, skill-based, fantastic. And that takes us to a certain degree. That takes us so far with people, with clients, with anybody that we're helping. But what I've given my life to here is recognizing that it doesn't matter what titles and papers you've got. Your story is ultimately the thing that's really going to draw people in. And for you, what I heard you just say was like, these experiences were all part of my story. As you went into NLP and were taken through that process, you realized, holy crap, this has helped me become more connected.
Yeah.
And now I'm better fit to help people become more connected.
There's the shivers.
You're touching your arm, feeling goosebumps. I love it. Right? Because that's the beautiful part. You're like, great, you've got the authority, but actually, Meghan, your life story is the authority. That's ultimately what draws people into you, to see that, to hear how you translate the experience of your childhood and teenage years to a point of disconnection. We go, ooh, okay, I felt that. And so how is it that you're showing up the way that you do now? And you're like, well, it's taken a lot of healing and a lot of coaching and a lot of support from other people. So if you want to not feel disconnected anymore, then maybe definitely coaching and help and guidance from other people will be the key.
100%.
Love you forever. This is
Love
it.
you
Like it's
forever.
if you want to go through this journey, you've got to experience the whole thing. And do you find that people are do people easily identify with that, of saying like, yes, disconnected, that's how I feel? Or does it take some help to identify that in people's lives?
Oh, it definitely takes help. Some people have the awareness because, with my past history with addiction and also with nursing, I think there is a understanding when people wake up that there is a disconnect. But say someone comes to me and wants to open up a Pilates studio, which is great. However, if we don't heal the underlying issues as to like create a strong foundation for you to thrive in, I'm not here to say, yes, you're going to open up this Pilates studio until we heal what might come up for you, such as fear,
Wow.
right? And this is,
Yeah.
this is the groundwork, right? Like
Yeah.
I could market myself as this business coach, this success coach. I'm going to help you make X amount of dollars. However, we need to get to the root cause. I don't care who you are. We all have these experiences in our lifetime that really hinder our success to where we want to go. Right.
Yeah.
So it's really healing on the root level, the root cause, and then growing and expanding from there. Hence, transform and transcend.
Come on. Your new podcast that's coming out.
That's right.
Soon. Maybe it'll be out by the time this comes out. I don't know, but look for it. It is fascinating. And this idea of disconnection and reconnecting, it is something that I have dabbled in recently, I would say, and have really done some experience going back specifically to a moment in my life, just before I found out that my parents were getting divorced, and going back to that as a key moment. A coach led me to think about this, a key moment when I needed to hear something that maybe I didn't hear. And then I walked into the room and my dad told me that they were getting a divorce, and it opened me up. It broke me open at 8 years old. And so the experience for me was going back, just talking about that normally like, oh, this is just a thing that happened. That sure, it's part of my story. And it's, why would I wish it away when it brought all these other experiences that were so good in my life and all that stuff? And, you kind of just go with it. But to go back to that moment and kind of I did a little bit of a mental jump, and you're nodding here because you're like, yes, this is the good work, isn't it? And to go back and talk to that boy, to talk. I literally imagined myself in that hallway in my house, and me and my brother were called up to my dad's room, and I was there, and I just said, wait, just wait a second. And I talked to Alexander, little boy, Alex is Alexander. And then I was like, hey, you're going to go in that room and you're going to hear some crap. And it's going to be really hard. But before you do that, let me just tell you, everything's going to be okay. And I love you, and you are awesome, and you are joy. And right. So I have this practice of which I once was quite disconnected from that experience. I would say I am on my way to finding even more connection with that whole story and that whole person, and actually able to rewrite the story essentially. So now I go back and I remind that kid who he is. Anytime that I'm scared, anytime that I'm afraid or need validation or affirmation, I go back and talk to him.
Yes. Again,
I don't know where that came from, but
flooded.
Needed to be said.
I love it. No, it's so important. And it's, this deep work, I think, it's not easy for everyone to say, hey, I'm ready to jump into this. However, if you could only imagine how much more profound your life experience will be, if you're able to go back to these spaces and not experience, you're not re-traumatizing yourself. You're not experiencing anything, but is
Yeah.
able to heal on a subconscious level and then move beyond that, right?
This is the good work. This is the magic.
It
It really
is.
is. Look, so I mean, you've got this fabulous, incredibly deep story that I don't even think we scratched the surface on. We just skimmed it. But it is powerful, and it is going from, disconnected to whole. And at least as far as I hear it. And I know that there are people listening to this that are finding themselves in that place, and they feel something's off. And they might not define themselves as disconnected from themselves, but as you said, sometimes it just takes some work to really identify that. But they know that something's not aligned. Something's off, and they've been saying for a long time, I got to sort this out. I got to figure this out. And they know now that you are someone on their path that can absolutely help them find wholeness. What is a good way for them to connect with you, Meghan, and start that conversation?
Thank you. You can simply connect with me on Instagram. You can shoot me an email. You can send me a private message, whatever feels most aligned for you, but trust that this is a very safe container for you to receive whatever it is that you're wanting to heal through or connect with.
What's a good way to start a conversation like that? Like do people come to you and say, like, I'm broken, help me? Like, what's the, or like, I don't know, but maybe you do. What's a good way? What's a tool that you can give someone right now to just even open up that conversation?
Well, I'm all about, it's okay to ask for help. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay to acknowledge that. I mean, we all need support. I don't care who you are in the world. We all need support. Right. And, just to reach out and just say, I would love some support. I would love some help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Just acknowledging that you don't have to do this thing called life on your own. That's the most important piece.
Hallelujah. I love it. Well, this is absolutely enthralling story and conversation. As I said at the beginning, I just truly appreciate who you are, and the energy, the wholeness, and authenticity that you bring to any conversation that we have. And I truly, I'm just grateful that you are in this world and doing the work that you are, and taking your story to be an example of exactly how you can help others experience that same transformation. This is the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. I love and appreciate you, and I'm grateful to be on this journey with you. Thank you.
It's fabulous. It's good.